Ladies and gentlemen, today is April 2nd, 2013. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 77. I am your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial on drawing globular amorphous liquid-like creatures. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down the lovely lane to see all of the awesome pieces that have been submitted from viewers like you. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been continuing to submit your awesome artwork, things that the tutorials helping you out, and yeah, and just some awesome art like coming in from Brian Hogan. As you know, we have recently moved, as to why there is the new backdrop, the new background behind me, and you got some awesome submissions. I just love the variety of styles we get on here, and it makes me really happy to see everything. And then we get stuff like this, which is just beyond words. Christina Weinman, that is so amazing. I love that. She even had the note there. Okay, so there was like a flower in the hair. That's so beautiful. That I'm glad you put that note there, so now I know that. And yeah, my eyes are just being led right off of this. They're being led up to this piece, which was sent in by John. Thank you very much, John. That is basically what the person sees mid when I'm running Maokai and the Nidalee is hiding in the brush. That's the last thing I see before I die. Speaking of that, we got Maokai as well coming in from John. So John knows what I like, and I like this skin a lot too. And I'm always a big fan of replacing human heads with appliances, so you guys know how to tickle my fancy. Moving on to the Twitter. For those of you who have not followed me yet on Twitter, please follow, because I will not spam you with links when I am at the post office. Although maybe I should do that. Be like, hey, I'm sending out your packages. But I don't know if that'd be that cool. But I will update you when I'm uploading new videos to YouTube and all of that good stuff. Alright, guys. With all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started. Get started on this evil, gelatinous goo guy. Oh, but first, one more thing that we have to do. I have to thank this month's donator. For those of you who saw the Facebook page, I'm talking about donators. I said a special thank you to everyone who donated back in March. And now we have a new month upon us, and Joseph Malone has been the kindest man to grace us with his hard-earned cash. So thank you very much, Joseph Malone. He's got himself a platinum name because he is an epic donator. Alright, now, with all that out of the way, we'll get started on the tutorial. Alright, so here we go. So a big thing that I want to talk about today is if we're going to be creating a blobular creature, right? This was actually inspired very much by Zach, right? Zach is the newest champion to join the Ligue des Legendos. And so naturally, I was in the mood to draw a blob-like guy. However, we're not going to be drawing Zach today. We are going to be drawing another character that was famed from many years ago. You may remember him from a game called Clay Fighters. And his name was the Blob. Just the Blob. And we're going to be drawing him today and putting a little bit of a texture pass on him to make him look a little bit more globular, a little bit more snot-like, right? Which should be pretty sweet, considering that I'm not feeling at the top of my health game, although I am feeling quite good. It always feels good to do the show, but I am a little bit under the weather. I think I was a little bit stressed because of all the moving and all that stuff. But now that it is out of the way and we are settling down, things are returning to their normal state, I am becoming well again, thanks to some essential oils, tea, and lots of soup. And in a weird way, I've actually kind of learned to enjoy being sick, right? Because what's interesting is that when you're sick, you're forced to relax, right? You're forced to take a break. And I think that was a little bit of what I needed. I actually needed a little bit of a break. So I'm actually going to take this guy, I'm going to make him a little bit more exaggerated, because he usually kind of like stands upright like this in the game, right? For those of you who know who I'm drawing here. He's got this little flick over here, and then he's got eyes like that. I'm going to add a little bit more interest or a little bit more flow to him, right? Because this is kind of too 2D, kind of boring. So let's put that over to the side, okay? And as we have learned, we've learned that it's okay. It's okay to not draw the right thing the first time. You don't always have to do the exact perfect thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another one. And let's see, what do I want to do here? I kind of want to add a little bit more flow to him. So I'm basically going to take this. I like this little lump here because it looks like a gut. I really like that. So I'm going to go ahead and exaggerate that a little bit and kind of bring this way back like that. Okay. Consider this. Consider this. Now let's make him nice and happy. He's kind of got zombie mouth going on. What's up with that? It's kind of creepy. Kind of looks a little bit like a zombie now that I look at him. Alright. I mean, he's got the teeth. He's got the creepy teeth going on there. But I love this game. I absolutely loved this game back when I used to play it. I remember back when it first came out, I looked at it, I was like, how do they make those graphics? You know, it was like the same thing in Mario Kart, which is like a rendered flat character, but it's like rendered from all the different angles. And it looked like state-of-the-art, like 3D. But it was just a clever illusion. Clever illusion devised for the gamers of that day. Alright, so I'm going to give him a little bit more attitude, a little bit more happiness, right? So I'm kind of playing up this right here, like this flow line going all the way up there. Okay, so we're going to do one of these, make his little thingamajigger, whatever that thing is, a little bit bigger. Yeah, I like that. Let's go and stretch his mouth way back, like that. Yeah. Cool. Maybe we could make this into zombie blob. Ooh, that'd be cool. In fact, I think I might just do that. I might just do that. We'll do two things today. We'll do zombie and gelatinous. Gelatinous zombie blob guy. So that way I do not get sued for as much money from Interplay. Generous lawsuit coming in there. At least, well, I don't think that would actually happen. Because, I mean, there's tons of people that do how to draw Naruto and how to draw Korra from Legend of Korra. So I think that I'm hopefully going to be okay. If not, I'll let you guys know. That way you know not to make tutorials on this stuff either. Only draw your own characters. Or just zombify everything. Zombify Legend of Korra. That would be pretty sweet. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just like open his eye. He has like these little eyelids, but I'm going to go ahead and just open them all the way. Right? We'll have him looking like this. And we'll decide whether or not we want to turn his eyes into zombie eyes a little bit later. Okay? But for now, I'm liking this. So we've got our general flow in here. Got our general ooze guy there. Alright, so now let's go ahead and I'm keeping the sketch very light today because we're actually going to be omitting almost all of the lines in this. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and darken this a little bit. In fact, let's select this and put it on its own layer. The zombie blood has come to life, yes. Ooh, yeah, that's actually kind of cool. We could do purple blob. I like that. That was actually one of his alternate colors in the game, too, so we could totally get away with that. We could totally get away with that. I like the way you think. Lovely audience of mine. Lovely, lovely, attractive audience of mine. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start coloring. Yeah, let's make him purple. Let's make him purple. And I think this will actually help to illustrate the points of this gelatinous creature. Because the way the zombie blood reacts with light is actually really, really cool. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do here is let's go ahead and make the background like a little bit darker, right? So kind of like this. That way we have a nice kind of muted color, and I can show you how the gel will react with what is behind it to the best of my ability. And again, this is just what I do. I'm sure there's tons of things that you can learn to make it look even more realistic, but I have learned a quick way, very, very quick way, and some rules of thumb that you can remember to make sure that your drawings always appear, you know, your materials very, very quickly appear as they are gelatinous and liquidy. And that makes us happy. Alright. So let's go ahead and color this guy in. Basically all I'm doing is I'm laying down another color behind him, and I've set his colors, or his lines rather, to multiply. And I'm just kind of creating this shape here. And then I'll go in and kind of pull out the teeth with some white, as well as the eyeballs. I'll pull out his eyeballs, like that one move he has. He actually has an eyeball popping move where he'll smack you with his eyeballs. That's something. That's something you don't see every day. Righto. Righto. Alright, let's go ahead and pick our eraser, make sure that that is set to ink as well. Good, good, good. And this is the really, really fun part. I love like manual masking because it's just so relaxing and it takes so long, so you can actually go into a state of like half sleep. Really, really awesome. No, but seriously, no, I don't like this. In fact, I've done a tutorial on masking before that kind of speeds up this process, but you have to have a little bit of cleaner lines. But for today, since we are doing this a little bit quicker, we don't have to worry about cleaning up our lines as much, especially since we're going to be omitting them in a moment. I'm going to be taking them out. All right, cool. So we've got our guy here. Now I want you to pay attention to how quickly, after we lay out the eyes, after we put the eyes in, I want you to pay attention to how quickly we can start to make this thing look like it is, in fact, gelatinous. Again, just set up, different layer too. Make sure this is on a different layer. You got your physical teeth inside a gelatinous creature. This will be interesting because we might want to draw a little bit of the eyes like within the gel. I wonder if I can actually get to that. It might be a little bit of an advanced technique, but we'll see. We'll see if there's a quick way that I can understand that or help to communicate that. Alrighty then. I really like that. Really like that a lot. Oop. Hang on one second while I save this. I hate it when I do that. I hate it when I forget to save it because it could pull up some important documents that you're not supposed to see. I'll have to go back and edit it before I put it onto YouTube. But luckily, that was just the donator's PSD. Lucky me. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and begin the translation. And I'm going to show you guys how simple this is to do. So you're going to create a clipping mask over top of your purple right there. And you can name it, you know, like body, right? And then this other layer can be called eyes, just so you can remember that stuff. And then we're going to create a clipping mask where basically create another layer on top. You alt-click between them. Basically, it acts as a stencil of whatever layer is behind it. It's like a stencil. You can't paint out of the lines. And that is oh so welcome. It's oh so nice. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is, I think the quickest way that you can begin adding like a gelatinous look to your gel, right, is, well, the first thing you want to consider is where your light source is coming from. So let's go ahead and just do a simple light source coming from the top left, right? Top left light source. Gotta love it. We'll even label it light. Light! And put some little flicks on it. That way no one is confused, right? And it leads your eye over here. By the way, that stream yesterday was so awesome. I was actually worried that like people were gonna get ticked off and like leave. But you guys said you enjoyed it, so I actually had a lot of fun doing it. And strangely, like when I was done with it, I was like, hey, that's actually kind of cool. Like it's kind of fun. And I think that goes back to, remember when we did that study on free drawing? That was basically what I was doing there. I was not allowing myself to be inhibited by what the drawing was supposed to look like. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take a dark color, right? And the way that zombie blood works is as it gets darker, it actually goes more towards red, okay? And this is going to be interesting because your light source is actually coming from this way, the top left, and much like yesterday, your shadows are actually going to be on the side of the light. Isn't that interesting? Just trust me on this. Trust me on this. Roll with me. Roll with me, okay? It gets better. Basically, any edge where there would be light, put a shadow. Okay? I'm going to show you what that will allow you to do in just a moment. And again, this is a very, very quick way to create a gelatinous type look. If you want to like get super realistic, then it's probably good that you have some sort of reference and all that stuff, but this will basically get the job done. Okay? Anywhere where there's like a shape, go ahead and just kind of blend those in like that. Basically the tops, wherever the light would be, you're almost doing inverted. You're doing an inverted shape here. Okay? Okay. Okay. Lovely. Lovely. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is you want to begin throwing the lights on the opposite side. Okay? Lights on the opposite side. So again, let's create another clipping mask. Put it on top of that. And now what's interesting is as the zombie blood picks up light, it actually turns blue, right? Turns more like this color. Okay? Now watch the cool hue shift that happens, right? Watch this. You're going to start getting something like this on the other side. You start getting these types of things. Basically, you want to start. Think about the light is going in. Think of it as going into the object and then kind of bouncing out underneath it, right? That's what we're thinking here. That is what we are saying here. Okay? So basically on the lower edges of all of these things, you're going to have more light. Okay? Especially like under here, over here. That's good, yeah. Especially over here. Okay? So now what you're doing is, yes, you are getting closer and closer to what you want. Okay? And feel free, as you get closer to the bottom, as these shapes get closer to the bottom, really kind of push that light. Like this, right? Really push it. Really push it as it gets to the edge. Like that. And it also, yeah, it basically is like an inverse, right? You want to, that's the way I always think about it. Wherever there would be light, I put a shadow. Wherever there would be a shadow, I put light. Probably about 9 times out of 10. That's the way it's going to work. In fact, yeah, let's make this really, really light in here. Because you want to think about the light is going through here. There's a thinner area right there, right? There's a thinner area of gel, right? So you're going to be able to see through that. As opposed to here, this is a thick area. There's a very, very thick area of gel. So you're not going to be able to see through as easily. Now, another cool thing that you can do before we move on to some of the final touches that we're going to do, and then we're going to move into overpainting, is you can determine, or you can help show the how see-through a character is by basically taking whatever color is behind him. So just to help illustrate this point, I'm actually going to go ahead and make the background make it kind of like an orangey color. Okay, like an orangey gray. Okay, so let's do that. So now a way to make it look more see-through is what you're going to do is you're going to create another layer over top of that, and then whatever is behind it. And I said this back in the water tutorial, right? Basically anywhere that you want to see through it is going to create a sense of, oh, he is like thinner there, right? I can see through his body there, right? So if you grab a little bit of this, put a little in here, and you want to be kind of like, depending on how see-through you want him to be, you will do stuff like this, right? And that makes us happy. You'll be able to see through a lot in here. And probably a lot in this area too. A lot like with his head. But just to make like a big, make a rash. Let's say he was like really, really see-through, like he's almost composed of water. You'd see a lot. You see a lot of that background behind him. So he'd look almost like this, right? In fact, I might just keep him like that for the sake of demonstrating what we were talking about today. Okay? So you want to think about wherever that ambient color is coming through him. Okay? And then you can always go back in here and you can almost control the thickness of him by reducing and increasing the opacity. So I'll go ahead and do something kind of in the center there. So now we're going to move on to, this is the big part right here. This is the part that really, really starts to give you the effect that you're looking for. This completes the illusion, if you will. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to add the highlights. Okay, the highlights are awesome. This is actually my favorite part. You're going to take your light source here, right? And you are going to also clipping mask it there. All right, and then basically wherever this light is shining, you're going to start to create your speculars. Okay, the speculars should be used very, very sparingly, and they should look almost like this. Okay, you're going to do stuff like this, right? So you want to have like a hot spot, and then it'll really, really die off towards the edges, right? Hot spot there, really die off. Hot spot there, really die off. You can kind of put them, you know, here and there, wherever you want. And what this is going to do is it's going to start creating your final look that you want. And sometimes you'll place them down, and sometimes they'll look kind of funny. And to that, I'd say don't worry about it. Just kind of place them down until they look about right. But generally speaking, what I like to do is think about like almost like a ribbon of light going through him, right? Think about all the speculars that'll hit on this side, all the speculars that'll hit on that side. Like technically, like if you're able to connect the speculars, it tends to look kind of cool. So like you have a specular here, here, here. You'd have one here, right? And you'd also have one right here, right? Really, actually, let's make this a large specular. And then, you know, here to here to here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and add in speculars along these areas like that. And you see what this is doing? This is giving us our final effect. And I like that. And this is going to give you some really good groundwork to begin doing your overpainting with, right? And that makes us so happy. All right, so now you can see our blobular creatures coming to life. In fact, you'll notice that a lot of you notice how the specular is really what tells the material at the end there, right? And prior to that, it just looks kind of like a mishmash of your gradients. But I just wanted to show you guys that way you know what kind of goes behind the speculars to make it look like that, okay? Let's see if I want a little bit specular there. I actually like that. I like it a lot. All right, eyes. Let's go ahead and just paint his eyes really quick. Let's give him some of these. Some of these. And let's go ahead and move on into overpainting. Overpainting is a very, very fun stage because this is where we start to draw out everything. We've done all of the work, like we've laid in the infrastructure for what we're looking to make. Now we're going to go in there and we're going to start refining. Okay? So usually what I like to do is take all of these things and combine them into one group, and we'll call it blob, right? Or bloob. Create a new layer called the OP layer because it is in fact overpowered. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start painting out the lines. Very, very carefully, very, very slowly. Okay? So another thing that's really cool to do, and what I really like to do here, is push the exaggeration of the light even further, right? In like specific areas. So like right in here, you know? Things like that. Those are really, you're gonna look at that and be like, whoa, that looks awesome, right? Like your viewer's eye is gonna like attach itself to that and be like, whoa, that looks really cool. And then also keep in mind that as your colors get lighter towards the edge, there's one more transition before it goes to the edge, and it actually does get slightly darker. So it'll basically almost return back to its normal color right here. So the edges will basically be this color. So you can kind of just repaint those edges to whatever you want, but just be wary of that. Be wary of the edges that will be formed there. Okay? Let's go ahead and just kind of keep blending in some ways, right? Just kind of throw in those colors where we want them. And you can see very quickly our blob man is taking shape. Love it! A big area of light is actually going to be in his mouth, as we stated before. Even though we drew it dark, we're actually going to draw it light now, because you want to think about the thinness of that material right there is going to allow us to see a lot of the background, not only the background, but light in between it. And basically, whether your background or the light will show, I'm actually not sure about that. Usually I go by like whichever is lighter, you will see. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of combine them until it looks about right. Because it would be dark in some ways too. It actually would be dark. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. Joint study session! We're gonna talk about the physics of blobs. So what I'm gonna do to kind of like play it safe is I'm gonna go ahead and just add a little bit of light towards the bottom of the mouth. And then as it gets towards the top, I'm gonna actually make it darker. Okay? So that way we still retain this nice shape here. You can throw in light along this edge. You want to think about the contrast of your edges as well, right? Like dark here versus light here is going to create a very, very clear contrast and a very, very clear shape for your viewer. And that makes us happy when we can see what's going on in a piece. It makes us very happy. It makes us feel smart, and it makes us say, hey, I like this artist. I just get his work. It just speaks to me. And that's what you want. You want people to say that. Alright, so go ahead and then convexly, I also like to go ahead and go into the edges and make them a little bit darker, right? Kind of refine those edges. Refine those edges and make them just a tad bit darker and kind of blend in. And the more you do that, it's going to start kind of, it's bringing out more of the shape, right? Like, look at this. You kind of allow the darkness of this edge to create the line there for your viewer. Right? It's all about creating lines. Lines are nothing more than a representation of an area of contrast. And I hope I said that well. In fact, I'll repeat it. Lines are nothing more than a representation of an area of contrast. All right? Study that one. Study that one. When you really think about it that way, it's like, wow, you can have lines by telling the story with shapes and colors and contrast, right? So for example, if I wanted to draw this shape with lines, I could almost do this, like in a comic book format, right? I could draw this little thing, right? And I could draw that, and I could draw the specular like that if I wanted to, and I could draw the other edge of it like that. And basically that is telling me there's areas of contrast here, right? But now what you're doing is you're telling that story, you're telling or communicating that with your shapes and your contrast. And that is the difference between painting something realistically and painting something that looks cartoony. That's it. That's all. That's all it is. And you can see very quickly it is continuing to take shape. And another thing I really like to do with speculars to really make them pop is make sure your edges, like see how they're kind of blurry in some areas? They can be that way sometimes, but when you're really going in and refining your speculars, make the edges of them really, really crisp, right? Really, really hot and really, really crisp. Going to add a lot of cool value. It will make you the king of your castle. All right, so notice, like, let's go through this one more time, because I think this is actually one of the best explanations of what we're doing today. Right, wherever the light is coming from, you're gonna have a dark edge that fades into your local color, which is, what color is this ooze? Is it green? Is it purple? So it fades from darkness into that. Right, depending on where the light is coming from. Then from there, you're going to transition slowly into the light, right? What color does this gelatinous ooze turn when it's exposed to the light? And you can have a hue change here. I really think hue changes make it look really cool. Like, see how it's like red and then purple and then blue. I really like that. So feel free to explore and have fun with that. See what works best for you. Actually, I don't like that. I don't like that. I softened that edge, but I didn't like it. I think in some areas, like this reflected light, or rather the light that's on the inside of it, looks better when it has some sharp edges too. At least that's from what I'm seeing right now. So yeah, and then let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and merge him, or I'm going to duplicate merge him. That way, in case we make a big mistake, we can go back. Merge that as I choke on my phlegm. Alright, choke on. That was from StarCraft. Choke on. Alright, so I'm going in here and just refining edges. That's another big thing that I really like to do. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I necessarily like to do it, but if you're looking to create like a more realistic look, just take your edges, go into your edges eventually, and make sure you have the ink brush, right? Don't use your regular hard brush and press hard the whole way through, because that is going to kill your wrist, and it will eventually kill you. Get a hard round brush that is on 100% opacity, regardless of how hard you're pressing down on the tablet. And it will save your life. And then what you can do in here is just come in, trim away, and create some nice, sharp edges. Okay? Basically, you are, just cutting away the fat that was there before. You're making a nice solid structure. Okay? I'll just kind of clean up his head. We'll move on to his body, do a little bit more of that, and then, I think we'll just call today's episode good. Hope you guys don't mind. Today's going to be a little bit shorter because I am a little bit under the weather. And I need to relax. I need to have my back scratched, have some tea, and then lay down and take a nap. And that is what I plan to do. Alright, cleaning that up. Cleaning Keenan. That would be my business name if I was a housemaid. In fact, you might see it someday. You might see it. Show up in like a little maid uniform, with my little feather duster. That'd be sexy. I'll be all ripped, right? I'll be all, just like jacked in this little maid uniform. I'll call it Cleanin' Keenan. And people will just hire me to work just so they can laugh at me and invite their friends over. They'll invite their friends over, and then, I'll just come walking by, like, ripped French maid outfit, and they'll be like, what? Something wrong? I would like that. Alright, so moving on to the eyes. Let's not forget about the eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put some speculars on the eyes. And put a little bit of shading in there, too. Why not? Now, the eyes are really cool as well, because they are they have fluid on them, like tears. The way that you'll render eyes is you're going to really, really exaggerate the reflected light, okay? And let's do that. Let's do that. All right. I better not see any picture of that on Facebook, otherwise I'm deleting this episode. All right. So nobody else draws pictures of it. All right, a little bit more light there, right? A little bit of light in there. Think about all your edges. Cleaning them up. Cleaning like Keenan. Okay, so moving on to the eyes. Let's make a nice hot specular right on the edge of the eye, like that, right? And then what you're going to do for the underside is you're just going to exaggerate that reflected light underneath here, okay? That's going to help tell this material. Help tell it. Okay? Let's go ahead and make his eyes a little bit more edged out so they look good. Nice! I like it. And then a cool thing about irises, like if you want to draw irises, is it almost follows the same rule. Wherever the light is coming from, the darkness is facing towards the light. And then the light side is on the other side, the opposite side, right? So the light comes from this way, so the light will be on the opposite side. That has to do majorly with how your eyelids or your irises are composed within your eye. They're almost like satellite dishes, right? So they pick up light on the other side, where the other side is actually in shadow. It's pretty cool. I really like that a lot. It's a major reason why like anime has that going on a lot. Anime has like those bright eyes. So that's good stuff. And this thing keeps... Okay, there we go. That doesn't rotate my canvas, does it? Okay. Because I'm using old Photoshop. Has not incorporated that technology yet. So it kept like touching the little scroll wheel on the side, and it kept like automatically zooming in and out. It's kind of annoying. I'm still getting used to it. Even though it's the same desk, I'm still getting used to this setup. Alright, and then a cool way to kind of show what's happening within this, like if you want to show the eye inside of here, you almost want to, like, it's almost telling the story right here. This shape is representing the eye within the goo, right? So you just create like a dark shadow. Anything within the goo is actually going to be a lot darker because you want to think about it. It's absorbing more of the light before it is able to reach that object. And it's also on the darker side, right? If the light is shining from the top left, then the bottom right side of the eyeball is going to be in shadow. So basically like that. And that should help to give you a little bit more of a, what's the word? A little bit of a better illusion as to what is going on there. And then also a really cool thing that you can do to help kind of play up this edge is throw in a little bit of this like reflect light. You want to think about that eye is actually reflecting a little bit off of this goo. Okay? It's almost like a specular, but it's coming from a different area. I think that would happen. Just take a look at it, like zoom out. If it looks good, then keep it. If not, then maybe you should be doing something else. That's my motto. Try it, see if it works. If it does, then it is law. If not, then it never happened. All right, so let's go ahead and continue this. How much time we got? Sweet. Still got 20 minutes, although I am still thinking about ending early. I'll probably go for about another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to take question catapults, and then I'm going to relax, play some Minecraft, and go to bed. Minecraft. I love that game. I love that game, and I'm still a noob, so I don't know what anything really does. I'm in the exploration stage, right? Everything's new and adventurous and fun. I haven't figured out everything about the game yet, and I like that feeling. I really like that feeling. Like when I first picked up World of Warcraft, I remember that feeling. It was just so awesome, just like not knowing anything and nobody else knew anything, and you're all trying to figure it out and be the best. Be the best. Alrighty. Yeah, so this is pretty fun. So you can see our blobby guy is coming even more to life. I love that. You can see what's happened with our overpaint layers. Alrighty. Now another thing that I'm noticing that I'm not liking as much is maybe a little too much specular here. Maybe a little too much here as well. Just want a small little one right there. Not too much. Okay? Not too much. When in doubt, just reduce some of your speculars. If it looks too shiny or too fake, just get rid of some of them. That should help you out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create these teeth here. Use the contrast of the darks against the pearly whites. Tell the story. It's all about telling stories. It's all about telling the story. And then we'll also add in a little bit of darkness, like where these teeth are like in his flesh or like in his face. I don't know if you'd see as much of them here, but I'll put a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there. Okay? And again, that should be very, very lightly suggested. There's probably better ways to do it too, but that is the law of the land for right now. In fact, I might just do this. I'll just kind of finish off that thing there. Doing a dims. Doing dim things there. Alright. Darkness. Darkness up here too. Dark side. Alright. Put some little bit of lighter areas in here. And this is kind of just winging it, right? I'm just kind of using that same principle. Lighter on the bottom, darker on top. Seeing how it looks. And I have a feeling that it is going to work with splendor. With much splendor. Put in a nice dark color there to show the edge of our goo. Dark color there. Looks good. Good. Highlight there. Clean it up. Make sure it's nice and clean. Cool. I'm liking that. And then also you want to think about a little bit of the shadow that's going to be hitting these teeth, right? A little bit of a shadow that's going to be coming over top of them with the goo. Okay? So don't forget about the shadows. The goo, as far as I can tell, are like liquidous materials. I hope that's a word. If not, then it is now a word. Liquidous materials tend to have the same shadow style. Like if you were to draw a cast shadow, which actually we should do. If we were to draw a cast shadow for him, it'll actually be very, very similar as if it were a solid object. Okay? With some minor alterations. Minor alterations. Minor differences. Alright, let's go ahead and fix this up here. Gonna blend these areas in. I think the best thing to do is just kind of take it slow and then ask yourself how you feel at the end of each little area that you blend. It's like, does that look good? And then oftentimes you can get away with it just by, or you can achieve the look that you're wanting you can achieve the look you're wanting by just going back in and asking yourself the same questions, right? It's like, is the dark areas on the top? Is the light area on the bottom, right? Is the light area on the bottom of the shape? And then you just kind of go through your little checklist. And oftentimes, if all of your checks are made on your list, then you will have the desired effect. Notice I'm actually just abolishing that entire line there. I'm actually just blending this down, right? Blending that straight down. I want to add a little bit more background ambient color to him here because he would be much thinner in that area, right? I think I really want to add some more color in here, or some more of the background color in here too. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look exactly like I wanted it to. But you know what? I actually just realized that we can still have the mouth look like that because these edges are going to be dark. So that is totally fine if we make the mouth dark like that. In fact, it'll probably help with the readability. So we do it. Do it with me, class. Do it with me. All right. That sounded naughty. I just realized that. Draw with me, class. Draw with me. So naughty. Ugh. All right. Yeah, that's looking better. I like that. I like that more. Yeah. That is really cool. In fact, I want more. More! More! Oh, too much. Okay, that's good. That works. That works for me. Okay, I'll just kind of like repaint these teeth really quickly. And if you're using layers on all these things, like if you had the teeth layer over top of that, you know, this can also save time. But right now we're just painting all on one layer just to help illustrate points quickly. Okay? Okay. Also, we should have another light point down here. All right? Yeah, that's looking much more plausible to me now. Much more plausible. Especially because we decided to have these here. These edges kind of pushed out here. We got the teeth. There's going to be a heavier shadow over that one. Heavier shadow there. Heavier shadow there. Looks good. I actually feel like I'm like slipping into a bit of a trance, like a fever dream or something. It's kind of weird. I don't like it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being sick. I'm ready to be better. Better. I'm going to push this all the way up. Today was a good day, though. Got a lot of stuff done. Send off the rest of your packages. Send off the rest of your posters. So if you haven't gotten it yet, rest assured it has been sent. It is on your way to your lovely home. Alright, guys. So I'm actually liking that. Liking that a lot more now. Let's go ahead and flip it. See how our blobby guy's looking. Yeah. Yeah. I like him. I like him. He's kind of cute. He's kind of cute. I'm going to go ahead and go in here and add a little bit more color to his transitions. Like in this area, I'm going to add just a little bit more of a gradient there. A little bit more darkness there. Right? Just like adding small little bits of change to him. You can see what we did from that to that, right? So you look here, you can still tell, you can still see what is happening with him. However, now he looks a little bit more realistic. And that's good. That's good. All right, finishing up, let's go ahead and add some little lights down here. Some light down in this area. Some lights here. And we'll draw his cast shadow, right? Because that's another big thing that we want to do. And when you have ooze like overlapping itself, I think another good thing to do is just allow that same principle to govern it, right? And tell the story, right? Because you have actually a little bit of a cast shadow that's going to be being cast from this. But also it's just going to be darker because it's on the top anyway, right? So you're going to have something that looks somewhat, to my knowledge, like this. You're going to have a shape that creates something like that. Okay? That's how you draw like a piece of goo, like overlapping another piece of goo. Draw a little bit of that shadow. And then tell the edge, communicate the edge by doing that. Okay? Okay, okay. I'm gonna push this out like that. A little bit more darkness here, darkness there, darkness there. Darkness there, darkness there. I like it. I like it a lot. I really, really like it. Okay, let's go ahead and throw in a little bit more of this here. Again, pay attention to how like doing subtle changes will help to communicate form, right? Like this goes up, and that little shadow that's happening right there, it's kind of showing like a rounding, showing a slight rounding of the goo right there, right? We like that. Just pay attention to how your colors are going to begin affecting your form. This is really when it becomes, it almost feels like you're sculpting, really, because you know what color to use to create a desired effect, right? Basically, I'm just going in here and alt-clicking, being like, okay, I want to create an edge, so I'm obviously going to create that with a dark color. And if you wanted to create an edge down here, you can create that with a light color. Simple, yes? Simple. It's simple. Put a little bit of openness in that. Flip them around. It's looking good. I don't like the purple happening in that area. I don't like that at all. It looks cheesy, fake. I don't know. This is actually a tough one. I'm actually going to have to study this, see how a gelatinous thing, when it's like a thinner material, how that reacts with the light. How it looks like when it shines through. Shine on. When it shines on. Yeah. But for now, I think the rest of the tutorial will hold it up. The rest of the tutorial should hold it up. Hold up the principles that have been taught this day. Very good. And today was a good day. Today was a very good day. How much time we got? Whoa, 8:49. All right, guys, it is time to open up the castle walls. Let you cast your questions via catapult over the walls. Although I always wonder why I say that. I open the gates and you cast them over the walls. Like, can you just like roll them in? Anyway, you get the idea. Please cast your questions over the castle walls. I will capture them and send them back to you. And please ask any sort of crazy questions that you wish. And then we'll end 77th episode of the KNKL show. End just 77. And watch me. Watch me. Oh, as I create the cast shadow. Cast shadow time. Okay, so basically for the cast shadow, follows basically the same rules, right? Oh, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. That looks pretty good. cast shadow is going to look something like that. That looks good. Go ahead and kind of mess around with it to your liking. Let's go ahead and clean that edge up. Okay, we have a clean edge for the edge of the shadow. For the edge of shadow. And always keep in mind, as shadows get closer to your actual object, they will become much more crisp. So looking closely here, this shadow that's going to be coming off this is going to be very, very crisp, right? But as it fades back, as it goes back, it's going to become less crisp. It's actually going to become very blurry. Very, very, very blurry. In fact, I think that might be the key here. That might be the key to creating a shadow off of a globulous creature. Crisp at the beginning, faded as it goes back, like that. And then go ahead and erase also with your soft brush to create that feeling. Okay? I do something like that. That's just a very simple cast shadow. But then the question remains of what happens with that shadow. And I think a very, very interesting thing to do is you want to ask yourself, let's see. Part of me wants to actually take this shadow and lighten it a little bit. Like think about the light passing through it. So I want to like go blue because that's the color that is kind of being transcended through the goo. And I want to add a little bit of blue to the shadow. Let's lock it, lock dim pixels, add a little bit of blue down here. And that's usually what I want to do right off the bat. And I think it looks pretty okay. Looks okay, but something about it still doesn't look exactly right. Maybe it still needs to have just this edge of darkness. Not exactly sure. For most of the things that I've been looking at, like online and just with like water droplets and all that stuff, it seems like it's just like a straight black, right? And then as the edges go out, then it turns more purple like that, which actually might be what you do. Start the color right here. It's like your regular shadow color. Then as it fades out and goes to the more soft areas, then you're going to want to move to whatever color is here. So you can have the shadow look more like, let's actually lighten it up a little bit. So let's have our shadow look like that. Actually be darker. Be more like that. Then the edges will become more saturated like that. And yeah, actually look at that and I think that looks pretty good. So that is the rule. Alright. Cast us over the gates. How to draw an anime girl outside of her shell. Let's see. There's some good questions coming in here. Anthony Tran is asking, how many layers would you use on an average for a piece? And this is an interesting question because I personally like to simplify things as much as possible. So back when I was working professionally for Riot, I would be working on this really, really detailed character splash. But whenever I could, I would actually flatten that character. I would save the folder, basically see how we saved this guy from back here, back when he was like this. I'll save the layers, and I'll actually flatten it and then create another solid, like where it's just the character, and then I'll start painting over that. And the reason why I like doing that is because, again, it allows me to trim the edges much, much easier. That's my personal preference. You don't have to do it that way, but usually layers can tend between, you know, like 10 to 20 before I'll end up like collapsing things. Usually I like to separate between like foreground, midground, character, background, stuff like that. So at the end, it would usually be around 5 layers. And that makes us happy. So many comments are going to be ignored. Yeah, sorry. It's hard for me to look over and like check stuff when I'm doing, you know, because I don't want to have like giant silences within the show. All right. John is asking, because I don't want to butcher your last name, you are now John, is asking, when was the first time you made money via your art? That is a great question, John. I think I made money back when I designed like a logo for somebody, back when I was probably like 11 or 12 years old. But it was kind of like a rip. Like he had this. It was like a Flintstones guy, and I had to design a font that looked like it was chipped out of boulders or rocks, very much like the Flintstones. And I think it was like a landscaping service. So I had to create like a Flintstones guy, walking with like a lawnmower or something like that. And that was like one of the first times that I was in business making money with my art. I didn't make anything, like it was more like a fun opportunity that my dad set me up with. But until like way later on, I probably wasn't making much money off of my art. I was I was doing henna tattoos at Magic Mountain. I was teaching some young kids art school how to draw SpongeBob. I worked at the mall selling jeans. Tons of fun, tons of fun. But then I eventually got my job. Oh, I got another job illustrating books when I was about 19. And that transitioned into building my portfolio for Riot. And then that was very fun. Anthony Tran is asking if I'll ever cut my hair. And I actually do need to, because it's kind of turning into like this little bowl thing. It's kind of turning into like a little mushroom. I look like Toad, like a mix of Toad and the Beatles together. I tend to like longer hair, but I don't like it when it like poofs out in the back. So I'm probably going to get it trimmed here very soon. And yes, you can all rest assured that will happen. All right, I'm going to take a couple more questions, these remaining questions, and then we're going to end episode 77 of the KNKL show. All righty. Let us see here. Actually, I think that might have been the last question that I can see here. Oh, Anthony Tran is asking another good question. He's asking, at what point can you consider a piece professional enough? And that is very interesting. I think the best way to determine whether you are up to par is largely going to be at the discretion of whoever you're working for, right? Like if it's Riot, you're going to be dealing with a lot of sharp edges, right? Sharp edges and material definition, right? And elimination of brushstrokes. They believe in the robot overlords, and they like to make their art too perfect, right? The artists over there are absolutely amazing, and their art is way too perfect. And they basically eliminate any trace that a human ever created it, and they make it look like some sort of 3D rendering, which is awesome. So stuff like this actually would not be passable for that type of company, right? But again, we only spent 45 minutes on this, whereas usually the amount of time that you'd spend polishing this type of stuff could take 2 to 3 weeks, right? So I don't want you to get too discouraged by that. This is 1 hour's worth of work. Think about how much more you could do with all that time. So, but however, other companies might enjoy stuff like this. They might enjoy the hand-painted look. They might enjoy the rougher edges. They might enjoy the efficiency of how fast you can get stuff out. Different things for different companies. But I would say the biggest thing that I tend to look for, if you want to give your piece a very, very quick professional look, is sharpen the edges. Just like I said, you go in there and you cut away, kind of slip it away so the edges are nice and crisp. You can have all these like gradients and like painterly things on the inside, but if the edges are crisp, it just fools your eye. It just looks more clean. It looks more finished. All right, guys. So with that, we are going to end episode 77 of the KNKL show. Thank you guys once again for joining me live on Ustream. People on YouTube, please thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Keenan Lafferty. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another KNKL Emma stream. Till then, you guys take care.